All right, guys, welcome back. Two classes to go. So let's get this going. We're at the final chapter in Of Mice and Men, and we're at the crux of the story. And this is where we realize that the dream dies. But today we're focusing on characters. We've really gotten to look on the types of characters, the growth of the characters, or the decline of the characters. And we'll also look at the social class of the characters, because we have a bunch of characters that are outcasts, some that are alpha males, some that think they're alpha males, so we really got to go through all the characters. But now, how does everything come to a head? How does everything add up? And one of the ways that we notice it add up, and it's going to be expounded on in the themes chapter, but the real way that we notice it adds up is that certain characters kill each other's dreams. And that happens mostly because of their personalities mixed in with the social class that society puts them into, right? And we'll find that Curly and Lenny's loneliness basically forces them to be in the same space, which then leads to Lenny killing Curly's wife. If I didn't say Curly's wife, I meant Curly's wife. Killing Curly's wife. And then that breaks down all the other dreams and themes after that. Anyways, let's start like how we normally start. Read the summary for chapter 6, and then we'll go into the characters. George meets up with Lenny at the clearing where he had instructed Lenny to go in the event of any trouble. Lenny is panicking and George attempts to calm him down by telling him once again about their ranch. George distracts Lenny's attention and shoots him in the back of the head with Carlson's Luger pistol, which he had stolen from the bunkhouse. First quotation we're going into. And also remember, Lenny starts to hallucinate as well. And that's a very important part of the novel because we get to understand Lenny's mind state a little bit better. When a little bird skittered over the dry leaves behind him, his head jerked up and he strained toward the sound with the eyes and ears until he saw the bird. And then he dropped his head and drank again, acting like an animal. So Lenny is still in that kind of animalistic stage. When he had finished, he sat down on the bank with his side to the pool so that he could watch the trail's entrance. He embraced his knees and laid his chin on his knees. The light climbed on out of the valley, and as it went, the tops of the mountain seemed ablaze with increasing brightness. Lenny said softly, "I didn't forget, you bet, goddamn. Hide in the brush and wait for George." He pulled his hat down low over his eyes. "George gonna give me hell," he said. "George gonna wish he was alone and not have me bothering him." He turned his head and looked at the bright mountaintops. "I can go right off there and find a cave." So here we notice that same animalistic side of Lenny is coming out, but he's also very cautious that he did something wrong and that he might lose George. And this is where characters come in because this union between George and Lenny has been a very important union. It has been a union that has kept these guys going for years. And now he really feels like this might be the worst thing he did, and then it's going to cause him and George to not be friends. But he's also proud of himself for remembering what George said, that if something went wrong, hide in the bush. But he's starting to plan if George doesn't show up because he has his doubts because of what he did. Another quotation, right, is when he's speaking to Aunt Clara, and Lenny answered her, "I tried, Aunt Clara, ma'am. I tried and couldn't help it." So in previous classes, we spoke about how helpless Lenny kind of is because of his mindset. And this is something that's going to factor in very frequently. You understand? Because Lenny almost seems out of control of what he's doing. So we kind of look on Lenny as almost a hopeless case. But he's now hallucinating and talking to Aunt Clara, who couldn't even manage him. But when she passed away, she had hoped that George would help take care of him. But Lenny seems to be a lot more than even George could handle. Now he's hallucinating and speaking to the rabbits. But the rabbit repeated softly over and over again, "He gonna leave you, you crazy bastard. He gonna leave you all alone. He gonna leave you, you crazy bastard." So this is one of Lenny's biggest fears. Lenny's biggest fear is being left alone. Lenny is truly, truly afraid of being left alone and forgotten. I'm just trying to find the next quote we're looking at. Right. Lenny is truly, truly afraid of being forgotten or left alone or having to fend for himself, even though he might be planning for that. And that goes right into the next quote where it says, Lenny got up on his knees. You ain't gonna leave me, are you, George? I know you ain't. George came stiffly near and sat down beside him. No, I knowed it, Lenny cried. You ain't that kind. And this really leads a lot into the choices that George has to make, where George cannot abandon Lenny. No matter what he does, he won't be able to live with himself if he leaves Lenny somewhere or tells Lenny to go about his business. So that's why George then resorts to actually killing Lenny, because he says he can't leave him. So he has to, at that last moment, right up until Lenny dies, he has to make Lenny feel that he is there. And that's why he does tell him the dream. But we have to also kind of look on the emotions that it goes through. In the video clip that I have for today's class, we actually can see George going through this decision where it's in his facial expressions that he really is at a crossroads. But we know George kind of made the decision because he stole a gun from back in the bunkhouse. And he knows that he'd rather kill Lenny than have Curly torture him, right? Because he knows the deeper innocence that Lenny has because of his mental disabilities, right? But it's become too much to handle. For George especially, he can't do this anymore. But he also cannot leave Lenny alone. So he has to make this harsh decision and kill Lenny. So as characters, we notice that it goes from being tough and surviving to making these hard decisions. I'm going to play that video clip right now.
George? Yeah. Ain't you gonna give me hell? Like you done before? Like, if I didn't have you, I'd take my $50, go into a cat house.
Jesus Christ, Lenny. You can't remember nothing that happens. You remember every word I say.
I thought you was mad at me, George.
No. I ain't mad. I ain't never been mad.
You ain't gonna leave me, George. I knew you ain't.
Nope.
George, I done a bad thing.
Don't make no difference.
George. George. Where are we gonna go now?
I don't know.
I like it here. George, tell me like you done before. About them other guys and about us.
Now that we've seen the video clip, it's good to kind of see this acted out. You know, reading it in the book is one thing, but seeing it acted out is even different, because we notice that Lenny still has that innocence in his face, and George really, really has to make this hard decision. The title of this clip is Where We're Gonna Go Now, and we can see it in George's face that they can't go anywhere. As a character, Lenny can't go anywhere. There's no more development. He's at this age, he's not going to get any better. He's not going to be any different. So George realizes Lenny's not going to change. So he has to now make a change in his own life. And as a character, this is his next step. This is George's next step. And George's next step is going without Lenny. So he has to make that decision. And sadly, he ended up having to kill Lenny. Next class, when we speak about themes, we're going to talk about how this kills the dreams. You know, how this also shows the effect of women in society, how Curly's wife is alienated and forced to speak to the person with a mental disability, you know, and things like that. So we're going to look into that thematically. All right. Hope you guys learned a lot today. And don't forget, Champions of England, #1, you never walk alone. Big up yourself.